Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hivemind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. I just did a piece on 60 Minutes on their slanderous attacks on Ron DeSantis, more importantly on Republican states. Notice how much of the news cycle is being focused on Florida, Texas, Georgia, all of the BS narratives and lies that are being pushed to create a narrative. It is a distraction, that's exactly what it is. All of these media companies all work together in sync to push the same narrative, and that narrative is of course Republican bad. But it's not just about Republican bad. What it's mainly telling you is don't look over here, please, for the love of God. Don't divert your attention from what we're dangling in front of you and pay attention to what's going on in Democrat cities and Democrat states. And that's abject failure. A failure that's being highlighted by two things specifically. First, by police departments, as more and more officers start speaking out against the government, local officials, and city councils. As more and more police officers are leaving the force continuously, a trend that we've seen from 2020, which is now transitioning into 2021. Secondly, statistics, the numbers just don't lie. And of course, Democrat narratives and Democrat activist movements are falling flat on their faces as Democrat leaders are realizing they should have never defunded the police. And they're frantically trying to get millions of dollars back into the force and launching recruitment ads to try to undo the damage that they did to their own cities, their own constituents, and their own states. We got a lot to get into, but before we do, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We're still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. And of course, with that out of the way, let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so let's first start off with the police backlash. Something we've seen for a while, but departments have had enough. None more than the Portland police. Budget cuts, city council among reasons why so many Portland police officers are leaving the force. Officers are leaving the Portland Police Bureau in droves, citing reasons such as city leadership, budget cuts, and protests, the Oregonian reports. Since July 1st, 115 police officers have left the Portland Police Bureau, 74 of which retired and 41 resigned, with an additional 2 resigning and 1 retiring at the end of April. Of those that left, 31 of which filled out the voluntary exit form. The exit forms obtained by the Oregonian highlighted a wide dissatisfaction with the Bureau. Many would not recommend a job there. One officer wrote that everyone was overworked, overwhelmed, and burned out. But the most scathing is this one right over here from Oregon Live. They mocked city leaders. They bemoaned the lack of true community-based policing. And they were all Portland officers and supervisors who chose to leave the state's largest police force in the last year. In 31 exit interview statements, the employees who turned in their badges or retired were brutally frank about their reasons for getting out. The community shows zero support. The city council are raging idiots in addition to being stupid. Additionally, the mayor and council ignore actual facts on crime and policing in favor of radical leftists and anarchists' fantasies. What's worse is PPB command, lieutenant and above, is arrogantly incompetent and cowardly, one retiring detective wrote. The only differences between the Titanic and the PPB, he continued, deck chairs and a band. The Democrats have completely lost control. They've lost control over law and order, and probably more importantly, they have completely lost their relationship with police officers, police departments, and more importantly, police unions. This is why last year in the 2020 election, we saw near unanimous support, 90+%, getting behind the president, and many police unions, for the first time in their history, actually supporting a presidential candidate instead of staying neutral. Police officers have had enough. I mean, do you blame them? And it shouldn't just be the police officers, but the people themselves who have had enough, as Democrat cities are being ran into the dirt by Democrat leaders. There's a moment that I was watching from a Seattle documentary just the other day. Me and my girlfriend were absolutely shocked at the reaction. Here's a constituent from Seattle taking it to her local government and saying, "What are you guys doing? We don't feel safe anymore on the streets." And look at the reaction from the politician.
Property crime is committed, violence is committed, you need to call 911 and the police.
You've lost all credibility when you say, you said 2 words. You said call 911. Do you understand that the police have told us to vote you all out so that they can do their jobs? And you're telling us to call 911? You're smiling. You think it's funny? You think it's funny the way we're we're living?
Just a smirk, a condescending smirk and smile. This right here, this imagery represents Democrat leadership and just politicians in general. That smirk, that feckless leadership, nonchalance, not even caring, despite the reality. And the reality is, massive one-year rise in homicide rates collided with the pandemic in 2020. From NPR, by the way, a left-wing source. Last year, an alarming increase in homicides left communities often in lockdown reeling as officials searched for answers. The answer was defunding the police before, which is actually what caused this, so no, they're not searching for answers, they are the problem. Democrats don't find solutions, Democrats are the catalyst to these issues. At the end of 2020, Chicago police reported more than 750 murders, a jump of more than 50% compared to 2019. By mid-December, Los Angeles saw a 30% increase over the last year, with 332 homicides. There were 437 homicides in New York City by December 20th, nearly 40% more than the previous year. Take a look at the statistics, friends. Tucson up 38%, Washington up 19, New Orleans up 61, Kansas City 15, St. Louis 34, Dallas 23, Philadelphia 35, Boston 54, Oakland 37%, Greensboro 29, Las Vegas 14, Nashville 40.7, Minneapolis 72.3, Chicago 55, New York 39, Memphis 58.1. Notice, nearly every single city with massive spikes is a Democrat stronghold, many of which who defunded the police. You think that's bad? Oakland homicide rate surges by over 300% in 2021. 300%. Oakland, California is experiencing its deadliest year in decades as the city faces an unprecedented rise in violent crimes. The surge includes a 150% increase in carjackings, very similar to what we're seeing in Washington, D.C., a 115% increase in firearm-related assaults, and most disturbingly, however, Oakland is experiencing an over 300% increase in murders thus far in 2021. 30 people have been murdered in Oakland by mid-March 2021, a staggering increase from the 7 who were murdered by the same point in 2020. Welcome to the liberal utopia. Kamala Harris arrives on Air Force 2 in Oakland for a full day of scheduled stops with various local officials. Kamala Harris is in Oakland. Is she gonna say a single thing about the elephant in the room? Probably not. They're probably gonna focus on attacking Republicans, focus on pushing the narrative, probably talking a whole lot about voter suppression, not giving a hoot about the absolutely tragic loss of life, mainly minority loss of life within the city. It's a crime. It is a shame just how much these Democrats do not care. And of course, realizing just how wrong they were, Atlanta mayor to hire 250 police officers after homicides surged by 58%. This is something that we're seeing pretty much across Democrat cities who defunded their police departments as they're now scrambling to get funds allocated back in a desperate attempt to save their own behinds. As the city of Atlanta focuses on pushing out $100+ million spending spree with the MLB All-Star Game, screwing over their own city and their own state. Homicides are up. Violent crime is up in general. But the Democrats are focused on lying when it comes to politics and pitting people against each other. As the city of Portland, Oregon is experiencing the worst crime spree it's seen in decades at this point, what are the far lefties focused on? Portland High School delays vote on evergreen mascot because trees are racist. You gotta be kidding me. This is exactly what I mean. Now, obviously, this is hyperbole. It's a Portland high school. I get that. But the point that I'm trying to make is that Democrats focus on such petty, divisive things and never focus on the actual crux of the issue. That's what defund the police really was. Defund the police, create activism around the slandering of police officers instead of actually community building and fixing the issues that are the core affecting people's lives. They say Black Lives Matter, but seemingly don't care about the loss of life within minority communities. They don't care whatsoever. It's absolutely frustrating, and it's just an extension of Democrat incompetence, Democrat dereliction of duty, and the sinister Democrat agenda, which all mixes into one. There's a naivete, an emotional sensibility that's abused by the sinister actors, and it's a self-perpetuating cycle that accomplishes absolutely nothing. It's not just a coincidence that Democrat cities are at the top of nearly every negative index. Republican states are doing great when it comes to the COVID pandemic. Crime is not skyrocketing in the same way, where Democrat cities are failing on nearly every measurable statistic that there is. Now, that's the video that I got for you guys on this one. If you enjoyed it, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We're still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. But now, like usual, I gotta get back to work. I want to thank you guys for watching this one, and I'll see you on the next one.